today. I'm speaking with somebody who works for one of the leading recruitment firms in Tokyo. She is a talent acquisition specialist who specializes in helping top product teams find top tier talent. Chandni Dhawan, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Grateful to be here. Thanks
Yes.
for having me, Lee.
Yeah, I'm super excited to have this conversation as well because, I think you and I we met at a actually networking event. I think it was
Networking event.
last year, right? And we just had a really great conversation about, sales. We just talked about recruitment, product, all that, right? So I wanted to dive deep into those topics, but first, let's learn a little bit about you. Tell us, your story. How did you get to the where you are today?
Okay. So my name is Chandni. I'm originally from New Delhi, India. I've been in Tokyo for closer to 4 years now. By qualification, I'm an economics major and I graduated university in New Delhi. And then I was looking for what is it that I wanted to do in my life because I did not have any interest in like going into the education area. And I could speak Japanese at the time. And that's what made me want to move to Japan, move away
Mm,
from my parents for a bit and figure out who I am. And
I see.
that's where one of the startups here in Japan hired me over
Yeah.
here. And ever since then, I've been in the industry.
Nice, nice, nice. Yeah. So what made you want to learn Japanese just out of curiosity?
Actually, I was very young. I think I was about 8 to 10 years old when in junior school we had a mandatory option for a foreign language,
Mm.
and Japanese and French were the only options.
Oh.
And it turned out to be that the room in the French class was just crowded with like so many people, and the Japanese, room was empty. And one of my teachers was like, let's just take the road less taken, and that's how I landed up with Japanese.
Wow. Very, very interesting. Who would have thought that that one little decision, when you were that age would lead to you to actually living and working in that country, huh? Isn't that crazy?
That's crazy. And honestly, in hindsight, I was just too young to actually even make that decision because back then, learning a foreign language wasn't really as big of a thing in
Hmm.
India. But what I'm really grateful for is that through the language itself, I had a lot of exposure to things outside India, not
Mm.
just Japan. So just knowing Japan, I knew that there's a world outside India and my own city, and
Hmm.
that gave me access to a lot more people. And when I was 16 years old, there's this program by JICE,
Hmm.
and they host about 30 people every year in Japan for a cultural exchange program. So when I
Mm.
was 16, I had the opportunity to actually visit here
Oh, cool.
when I was in high school. And I was like, maybe, the people are nice, environment looks great. And in India, US and UK were very popular options to study overseas or work overseas, and Japan
Hmm.
was really this untapped area.
Hmm.
And I was like, maybe this could be an opportunity. So I applied for bachelor's, master's. For funding reasons, those options didn't work out, and finally, I was able to come here for work.
Amazing, amazing. Well, it all happened for a reason, right? Now you're
So,
here. And I'm sure that your Japanese is probably a lot better than mine, but yeah, it helps a lot once you know the language because it helps you connect with people very on a deeper level, right? Are
so,
you at business level yet or no?
yeah, I would say business level. Speaking is like I'm comfortable with speaking. Writing, I would say, is like to the mama. Yeah.
Yeah, writing for me and reading is just like, oh no, I really am dreading learning that exactly. But yeah,
Your
that's
wife
great.
is Japanese, Lee. Come on.
Yes, that's true. That's true. Yeah, she's a Japanese teacher. She doesn't teach me anything, which is crazy,
That's
right? It's so crazy. But no, it's great that you're finally here, right? So you say you got hired at a startup. What were
Hmm.
you doing for that startup? Was it still recruitment, headhunting? What were you doing for them? Yeah.
So that was actually a Sayo Daiko, and what they did was they used to take contracts from bigger companies who have a lot of job applications, and
Mm-hmm.
they would sort of do all of that manually and earn commission on that. And I
Mm.
was doing a marketing job there where I would create like a Jinsai Bushu database through content creation. And
Mm.
that's where I also got some end-to-end recruitment experience because it was too small of a company to have like a proper recruitment business.
Mm-hmm.
So from there, I understood that, okay, this is something that could be made money off. And the
Mm-hmm.
company that I work for right now scouted me at the time and they told me that they were hiring. And that's when
Okay.
I switched to full-time recruitment. And
I see.
another reason was money.
Mm-hmm.
And for a big reason, not only are recruitment firms very popular in Japan, they earn a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I was looking for a change in environment. So my last company was Japanese, and the current one is American.
I see. I see. Yeah, recruitment, there's a lot of earning potential. It's a very dynamic career. It seems to be a very popular one for foreigners here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I always wonder is like do most of these people speak Japanese or not? Because a lot I bump into a lot of them sometimes and they don't speak any Japanese. How do they, like how do you do your job here? You know what I mean? If you don't.
Yeah, I think a bigger reason is also back then Japan had just started globalization, so they were more
Mm-hmm.
open to having people who might not speak the similar language but are
Mm-hmm.
really good at other skills
Mm,
when it comes to communication and selling, and just finding great people. So I
right.
think if you're really good at that, and bilingual capability also, I think now it's more of an excuse for a lot of companies for hiring
Mm,
because that only bilingual capability is not going to get you your winning product or marketing team.
right. That's
Yeah.
very true. So what types of roles are you hiring for now? And like, yeah, what's your main focus area?
So main would be product. Within product, you have product managers, UX, UI designers, or UX researchers. Then
Hmm.
the other aspect is, marketing. You would have all of the marketing related positions when it comes to channel marketing, performance marketing, life cycle marketing, for various industries. And then in the creative field, you would then have events that are
Hmm.
organized by different companies. So product, digital marketing, and creative.
Oh, wow. Excellent. Have you noticed any differences between, the global expectations for product teams versus how they're actually run here in Japan? If you can maybe
Hmm.
share those with us.
That's a very popular one and a controversial one as well. I think the biggest thing is speed. Because when I think about on a global level, things want to be moved a little, like a lot more faster.
Hmm.
Versus in Japan, the context around those is ignored, and Japan focuses a lot more on processes, getting the processes right.
Mm,
Versus if I think about all the gaishke companies over here, they want to like get things done faster. But the
mm,
moment it enters Japan, I think there's a lot more reluctance towards accepting newer changes faster. And also, that's not communicated very effectively.
mm.
Whether it's, like a Gaishke company, you would have people who are working from multiple cultures together
Right.
to run something and sell something to Japanese consumers. So I
Mm.
would say speed and the ignorance of context would be one of the biggest hurdles.
Oh, wow. Why do you think that exists right now? Is it simply just like, the resources aren't there to, get people educated about the context, or what do you think that is, yeah, the main issue?
I think the biggest aspect is empathy when
Hmm.
it comes to the people who are leading, because they have aggressive revenue goals.
Mm,
Um, Sort of shoving that down, the other people's throats in a faster period of time feels easier than sort of lowering your ego, have gaining trust and having more influence over other people. You
right.
can't have more influence until you have that trust, and trust takes time.
Mm,
So I think just that understanding of the fact that why is it that certain people who may be Japanese or non-Japanese would want to communicate in a certain way. The
mm,
kind of feedback that they want to receive needs to be very, very specific in maybe their own language. Some people like to be direct with feedback. Some people want it to be like hidden, in different messages and not be very direct. So I think leadership, having a lot more empathy is key when
mhm,
it comes to, growing like a bigger business or a product.
mm. And when you work with, these companies that have mixed teams like this, like let's say it's a foreign leader in a team with a bunch of Japanese and a bunch of foreigners, right? Something like that. How how have you seen those type of teams kind of make it work, and how have you seen some of them kind of fail?
So I'll give you an example of one of this hiring managers I was working with who's a head product at one of the legal tech companies over here.
Mm,
And they had been in the technology area for like a very long time. And because where they come from originally, the industry is very, very fast moving.
hmm.
Um, But I think what has worked for them is that they have not based things solely on the number of years of experience when it
Mm,
comes to hiring people, and more around their emotional intelligence in being in terms of the capability of being able to collaborate with other people.
hmm.
That's number one. Then the second thing is being able to understand, some hiring people who understand users a little bit more and are curious about the users versus people who can just execute tasks as a 9 to 5 job.
Yeah.
Because independent thinking is something that you can teach someone over a period of time, but it's not something that can be, if it has like a barrier, in someone's mind, it's like harder to change that. So those are the teams where it really works. And the second area where it does not works is like a big example of like insurance companies. One, which is funny because one of the biggest frustrations I hear is that, okay, our product is not exciting enough, right?
Of
How do
course.
I get my team motivated to sell insurance? Because that's just a mandatory product that, you need to have in, as, like a life
Right.
saving aspect in your life. And insurance is mandatory in Japan.
Yeah.
So that's where the aspect comes, around, okay, how are you making your feel a team feel that whatever this insurance product's vision is, it connects to their personal goals.
Hmm. That's
And if they don't understand that, of course, they're not going to feel motivated like walking into the office every day. And
right.
also, UX in general, or like a product team in general for insurance companies,
Mhm.
isn't big enough compared to the technology teams in those company, IT engineers, for example,
That's a good point.
um, to have enough voice in those conversations,
Yeah.
to know, okay, does our job even matter?
Hmm.
Right? And
Very.
that's when, leadership matters even more because, um, like, why is it that a certain user KPI metric is
Hmm.
important for user experience? And how does a designer's skill, um, help in being able to upgrade that or create that impact? So I
Right.
think where the areas, to answer your question, the areas it doesn't work is when people don't feel that that particular product or company, for example, connects with what they want to achieve personally or in their careers.
Right. Yeah, that's very, very accurate. I remember when I was a recruiter, there would be certain clients that we had where it's not a very, kind of sexy place to work at, right? It's for developers and stuff, they're like, oh, it's a bank. They pay well, but I don't want to work there. Or insurance company, right? That's not very exciting. But yeah, it's all about how you kind of find the right fit for that team based on the
Yeah.
leadership, right?
Yeah.
Um, do you work mostly with clients that are full Japanese like teams, or is it mostly an international environment that you work with?
Both actually.
Both?
Both. Yeah.
What are I guess, if you can share or elaborate maybe some of the main differences in terms of how you communicate to those clients of yours, right? Because
Yeah.
they have certain needs, but
Yeah.
then the reality in the market is very different from maybe
Yeah.
some of those needs. I remember that as a
Yeah.
recruiter. Like you have to, set the expectations for them. So what is it like communicating to both?
So I think when, it's certainly been like challenging for me as well. It's been such a learning curve. Like, um I think with a lot of, the teams where the managers are Japanese,
Hmm.
um like in Japanese you have this phrase which says, "Nanka shita kareku,"
Hmm.
right? As salespeople, we have this habit of asking questions very, very directly.
Yes.
And sometimes it can come across, for any person for that matter, like, why is it that I should give you so much information?
Hmm.
Right? And so sort of making them feel very, very important, and then putting myself in a position where I'm going from like down up versus top down.
Hmm.
um, and from there speaking a little bit about, what is it that in their personal lives sort of, impacts the kind of work that they do, and that
Okay.
sort of is a very big icebreaker.
Mm.
Because I've seen a lot of the Japanese managers I work with, they've lived overseas for a bit, but they
Mm.
chose to come back and like work in Japan for a reason, um, because they're passionate about, certain products.
Right.
So I would say, like, I would usually communicate in a way where I am like putting myself in a lower position, to make them feel secure and make them feel important, and that you're my sole client. And that would be one. And then for a lot of the Gaishke managers, I've been like very fortunate that they are just very direct. But one thing that they really push my limits sometimes, in the way that
Hmm.
they would not just want to like hire someone with like years of experience, and that gives me a lot more leeway to help those candidates who might not fit, like the bill or the things on the job description.
Right.
So with them, I think my communication is very direct. And with
Mm.
Japanese managers, it's usually a little bit more contextual and relationship based.
I see. I see. Yeah, I think there's a really good book. I don't know if you've read it. It's called The Culture Map.
The culture map. Yeah, I
Did
did.
did that help you with regards to how you approach these type of conversations?
For sure, for sure. I think that book was also very, very helpful for like my leading my own team,
Mm.
because I personally am involved in the leadership of a team where um, somehow I'm the youngest, and most people have, even though I'm a little bit more tenured, but they're age-wise, they're a little bit more elder to me. And
Ah.
that's where sort of that message needs to be very, very carefully delivered. And everyone's different. Everyone's previous work histories have been different in Japan. And sort of they bring that baggage into the job that we're in. And because recruitment in general in Japan, it's considered to be like a very fierce business,
Mhm.
people think that they have to wear masks and they have to be inauthentic at work.
Mm.
And that sort of makes it a little bit harder to lead.
Right. I bet. Yes, yes. Yeah, there's this concept of what is it called? Tatemae or something
Yeah,
like that in
yeah,
Japanese culture.
yeah,
I'm sure at work there's so many like tatemaes going up,
for
for
sure.
everybody, right? How do you manage that, I guess? How do you manage those emotions with dealing with so much, work face versus authentic face? How do you deal with that?
So I have personally found a lot of peace in separating the work and personal. And at my current workplace, I'm fortunate enough that a lot of my leaders just value that I bring that.
Mm,
And a lot of people have, friends at workplace, which is great. But I sort of like drawing that boundary. However, that being said, I really care about the development of people within my team. I
mm,
really like seeing them grow. When someone has a win with some of the efforts that we've done together, it's just like an amazing feeling.
hmm.
So I think it's number one, having conversations that maybe don't relate to work, knowing their why. Why is it that they are in a sales job?
Hmm.
Because that somewhat relates to financial security. And when that is involved, I think there's a lot of emotions involved.
Hmm.
Um, and this then just coming from a place of wanting to help each other and care for each other. Because and the fourth thing would just be like feedback.
Right.
And the reason I said trust before feedback is because giving feedback requires a lot of trust. And then it took a long time for me to sort of build that muscle, because I have a very strong work ethic. And I used to think that why wouldn't someone just get the job done because it's the job to be done?
Mm,
But
right.
that it doesn't work that way. You can be a dick and get the job done, or you can just be a sweetheart and get the job done.
Right, exactly. That's
Um,
very
yeah,
true. You brought up some really, really great points that I want to actually talk about. And, one of them is, feedback. Feedback is a gift. And sometimes people are not ready to receive feedback. And like you said,
yeah,
having that trust before you
yeah,
deliver feedback is
mhm,
so important
yeah,
because they need to be able to receive it. So many times I've given feedback, to people and haven't had that trust, and then it's just like one in one ear, out the other, right?
yeah,
And another thing that you said I really love is about drawing the line at work
yeah,
between friends and,
yeah,
coworkers.
yeah,
I remember when I was a manager way back when of an English center, and I actually made it very clear from day one, we're going to be friendly guys, but not friends because I had seen so many other, people my age, get into that management role and fail. Their centers failed because they got too close with the
yeah,
teachers, right? So
yeah.
I love that you've realized that. It's such an early stage in your career, which is great.
Yeah, I think it's also, I mean, if it works for some people, great. I've just not seen it like work for me, because when you're in a foreign country, your behavior is already impacted by your roots, you know.
Hmm.
And I think sometimes authenticity is not, I would say, accepted at workplace. And also, things just work very differently in a foreign workplace. So I can't expect bringing that authenticity and succeeding in business in every place that I go.
Mm,
So I would just rather have that space for, my family or people who are very, very close to me. And as long as I'm not impacting someone, I think it's great.
yeah, exactly. It's all about when you work abroad or live abroad, it's all about how you adapt. You
Yeah.
still want to have your identity and your expertise and authenticity, but in a way that is going to be well received, I think.
So,
Right? So that's
yeah.
you know, actually, it brings me into my next point about the skills that people
Yeah.
really should learn and that are going to be good for long term because social skills,
Yeah.
right? Understanding people skills, I think in the future are going to be really high regarded. I'm wondering from you, you're in a sales position, you talk to people every day. What are some skills that you think long term are going to be really high regarded in the future?
Thank you. That's a very great question. I think number one would be situational thinking. Um, how do you understand the context where, like how leadership works, or how an individual contributor works, what's going to be important to someone who's in a managerial position versus someone who's not, and then what does that mean for maybe a product being successful or an organization being successful. And even though, because I've also hired engineers before I used to hire designers, I'm aware that sometimes, as individual contributors, people wouldn't really care about that.
Mm,
Um, but that's as important of a skill to understand, okay, where is your career gonna go from here, and
mm,
what is the ceiling for you?
mm,
Because the lack of awareness that I see within the talent pool here is this aspect of, where is my career gonna go? And I always tell them that you get to decide that, right? From understanding, do you understand how does your team work? What's most important to your leader?
yeah.
Right. So number one would be situational thinking. Then the second one would be behavioral thinking. Like, do you understand the difference between reactions and responses?
Mm,
Right. So, necessarily within technology, I think it's not as high pressure for a lot of people, so they don't give a lot of attention. But sales, for example, when it's like a high pressure conversation, every pressure conversation is very high pressure. So you need to understand like what every gesture means, or what this frown would mean. Does this nod or a smile means a yeah, or it's a yeah, or it's a hell yes or a hell no? You would just know, and you would know when to walk away.
right.
And then when you enter a multicultural environment like Japan, where there is just no expression on the face sometimes, then
Hmm.
you need to like be able to read behind the lines.
Mm,
And then also, when it comes to maybe giving and receiving feedback, some people maybe don't like confrontation. Then how is it, where do you recognize those patterns for a certain person around how to get the job done?
mm,
So second would be behavioral thinking. And the third thing that there's this author called Bren Brown. She spoke about this on a podcast. It's called systems thinking. And what this means is that, do you understand how your organization sits amongst the competitors in the market?
mm,
And that would tell you, is this product that you're working for, it's what the longevity of that is, right? How does your organization interact internally within different departments and with the external competitors? If you
mm,
know that, um, you can sort of have a hunch around the success of the company or successes of your teams, or
mm.
how far is it going to go.
Mm,
Yeah.
very, very interesting. I love those points, especially the one about, behavioral
Mm.
awareness. It's
Yeah.
very something where people don't really know how to pick up those
Yeah.
subtle cues.
Yeah.
And body language across cultures is very different,
Very different.
right? I think in Japan, this, where you cross your arms, is actually not a sign of being defensive, but it's more so a sign
Yeah.
of deep thought sometimes, right?
Yeah.
So just understanding those subtle things, like you said, the expressionless. I deal with that all the time. Sometimes even with my wife, I'm like, "Hey, are you okay?" You know what I mean? Did I say something wrong? You know? So yes, I could definitely see that. And yeah, systems thinking, that's very interesting. I was wondering if you could maybe, think of an example of how somebody who's looking for a job, whether it be in tech or in, design, maybe is thinking systematically
Hmm.
about what company they should join or yeah, how it'll benefit them.
Okay. So, number one, I would start off with firstly listing my strengths if I'm a job seeker.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's do you thrive in teams that are self-functioning or you want like a lot of direction? And then when it comes to, let's say, for example, UX design,
Mm-hmm.
what is it that you know your specialities are? How do you think? Are you someone who can create a product from scratch or whatever tools you're using? So I would think about firstly what my strengths are. Then, secondly, I would think about what is a problem that I like to solve.
Mm.
Maybe insurance is not a problem I like to solve,
Yes.
right? Maybe I want to be in an industry which is maybe media and entertainment. You know,
Mm-hmm.
that's the kind of user I like to study about. And then I would look up companies that sort of have positions that support that. And
Mm-hmm.
once you proceed to the interview stage, sorry, before the interview, um,
Mm-hmm.
of course, have a resume, but have a case study of one of your biggest projects. Like every company needs just one big project to give you the job,
Right.
right? Like resumes are sure, like you know, it's just been in the industry for a bit, but portfolios are very, very important. Have one handy, have one big case study for people who are maybe beginners, have just one case study in hand of your biggest projects. And once you proceed to the interview stage, ask great questions about how the team collaborates. You know, what is success metric for a team? What matters to the leadership of their team, and like what are some of the challenges that they are facing? That would give you an idea about is this something that's long term sustainable for you, or is this the problem that you like or don't like solving?
That's really great advice. You come across probably hundreds of thousands of, resumes all the time. And a lot of times what they'll just do is just list off skills
Yeah,
and like they don't use that space to really talk about a concrete proof of how they changed that company while they were there,
yeah,
the impact that they have. And
yeah.
that's such great advice, I think. And then yeah, connecting it to their values, like, okay,
Mm,
is insurance something I'm interested in? Yeah, probably not. Why am I looking for that type of
mm.
company? I think also being patient in the
Yeah,
job seeking process, it can be kind of daunting because you're not making money. But
yeah,
then like finding a company that you're gonna gel with
mm,
will probably let you be there for much longer of a time, right?
yeah,
That's a
yeah.
mistake that a lot of hiring people, make or people who are looking for jobs make. They're just like, oh, they're gonna hire me, I'm gonna go there, right?
Mm.
And it messes up things.
100%.
This leads me into my next part is like any advice you have for hiring managers that are looking to hire, especially in this age of, you know, AI and all that type of stuff. Yeah.
Okay. Well, number one would be please connect with me. Um, I mean, just jokes apart, you know, connect with a recruiter because
Mm,
they will give you, and I think within first few minutes of conversation with a recruiter, you would know you would want to work with them or not.
mm,
And I personally don't work with hiring managers who ask me to source of a job description. Like that's just not how I work. They just
mm,
tell me, okay, this is a challenge that I'm facing.
mm,
You know, what is it that you're seeing in the market for that?
mm,
So if you're a hiring manager and regardless of if you currently have budget to hire or not, connect with recruiting agencies who have a bigger talent of, you know, what is it that you're looking for, and just understand like what's going on in the market and what does talent right now want. That's number one. And then the second aspect would just be do not limit the number of years of experience that you're looking for or the bilingual capability, because then you would receive, of course, the checks on the paper, but you're not receiving people who have a great character. And I would make it very, very clear to the recruiters, if you're using a recruiter for hiring, that this is the soft skills that are very, very important for my company. And to give you an example, let's say I would tell them something like, I want someone who can understand the user very, very clearly. I want
mm,
them to understand that what particular metrics are important for making this product a success.
mm,
So then as a recruiter, I would, you know, screen them for like very, very specific aspects of what kind of users they have worked with.
mm,
How do they know that the user behaved a certain way, and what is the reason for that?
mm.
Because a lot of UX designers, they have like a great portfolio, but they don't know why a certain metric is there on a company's website,
I
right?
see. See.
So for hiring managers, it would just be, especially who are working in Japan, do not source for just number of years of experience because you might lose out on a lot of other skills that I just mentioned with behavior and situational thinking.
Absolutely. And I totally agree. Sometimes we put too much
Yeah.
importance on those numbers and
Yeah.
the checking of a box, right? Where in reality, as a recruiter, when you're talking to somebody, you're like, oh, actually, this guy has less than 2 years experience or, than what they're requiring, but this is a perfect fit because they have all these other soft skills. And the
Yeah.
soft skills don't show up on paper, but they show up in the
Yeah.
interview. They show up in the first 3 months while they're there, right? So how do you kind of like sell the company on that type of person where they maybe don't fit the job description exactly, but they're kind of like a perfect fit for them. How do you sell them on that?
So I personally speak to the previous employers of the candidates.
Mm,
I try to understand, okay, within this project, this is the area that I feel is lacking for the job description. What behaviors or patterns in the everyday job they have done, maybe
mm,
on other projects or with you, that could help sort of bridge that learning curve,
mm,
right? So number one is speaking to their previous employers, and second one would be just having talk to them a little bit about how do you self-educate yourself in your free time as a designer,
mhm.
because a lot of the people are not doing that. People would just expect to, like enter a company and like start designing, which might not, even be like a job in some time. So I
Yeah.
think it's really how do you educate yourself in your free time and the personal projects that you have.
That's definitely true. When I was a recruiter and, I had that type of situation as well. I remember just, suggesting to them, why don't you try him for 3 months? Give him a project or something like that,
Yeah.
see what they work like, because people need to be open-minded when it comes to hiring eh,
Hmm.
on that side as well, the client side. They need to be very open-minded because people have so much in their backstory, so much
Yeah.
stuff that doesn't appear on a resume and then if you have somebody who's intrinsically motivated, they can learn on the job very quickly sometimes. You
Yeah.
know, that's one thing I actually want to talk to you about, and that's, this age of AI, right?
Hmm.
There's a lot of junior level jobs that are just gonna disappear.
Yeah.
And we have millions of people around the world now learning careers like subjects at school that are no longer going to exist as as like a hiring manager or even from the employee's perspective, right? What did what advice do you have potentially for job seekers and also people who are hiring? Yeah.
So, I can also talk a little bit from my having charted my own career so far. I
Mm,
think the skills or the jobs that are going to survive would require three important, I'd say, characteristics, maybe. So, people who are going to survive are going to be good storytellers, good
mm,
educators, and then good entertainers. And I'll just
mhm,
break that down in a bit, what that means. So, if I translate that into maybe recruitment or, someone in a product team, um, if you're a great storyteller and you know how to communicate your value, right? You will be able to communicate your value to a customer, to a company that you're applying for a job to, or someone in your personal life that you're trying to convince to do something.
mhm,
And then when I think about education, like it's all content. Like we
mhm,
are surrounded by content. People need information. You need to find out your area of audience that needs the education that you have to give.
mhm,
And let's say if it's a product team, then you need to, and if you're conducting, let's say, user interviews and trying to understand users, you need to like be able to like educate them in some way. If you're a leader, your team needs to be educated about, how to better themselves. And then I think entertainment would be um, once again like somewhat related to content creation.
yep,
And I've started that a little bit myself. If you're not enjoying what is it that you're doing, it would be harder for you to like keep doing it for a very long time. So
that's
figure
right.
out what is that problem that you're trying to solve,
That's right.
that is continuously gonna sustain you in that area.
I love the fact that you brought up content, especially creation. I think the key word there is creation, right? Creativity is something that in Japan kind of gets stifled sometimes at a
Yeah.
young age, and it reappears when they're adults and like,
Yeah.
they're outside of work and they can do
Yeah.
stuff on their own. But then like, yeah, like throughout their learning career, a lot of times creativity gets put on the
Yeah.
back burner Whereas if you cultivate that your whole entire life and just
Yeah.
are in that creator mode, I think that you'll be very successful. That's a skill, like a soft skill that many people don't have, right?
Also, I would just want to add to that. I know it's like a little bit harder in Japan. Um, I think it's really also important for you to surround yourself with those people who are somewhat, in that area of maybe creating something.
Hmm.
Because with a lot of companies, they are in an autopilot mode right now. I know the labor laws are strict in Japan. People can't be fired. So that's where, there's no risk of things going somewhere. And
Hmm.
then you don't step out of your comfort zone or risk something.
Mm.
And then there's always like, people don't want to sort of show their face in Japan because there's a lot of fear of rejection, which I completely respect.
Hmm.
And I also feel that when I'm creating content sometimes, but you just have to put yourself out there.
Hmm.
Otherwise, it gets like tougher in Japan once you're in that mode and autopilot.
I love that you brought that up about putting yourself out there. There's some concept called personal branding that I don't see a
Yeah.
lot of here. I mean, you look at any Japanese
Yeah.
media, sometimes on
Yeah.
the TV, like they have masks on, they're like blurred out their face,
Oh
even their
God.
voice is gone, right? So
Yeah.
it's like if you're so afraid of being on camera, so afraid of putting yourself out there, then how are people going to know what you're doing? And that's one thing. Hopefully, J Japan will kind of learn how to do that the right way in a way that fits their humbleness and their like, you know modesty, but in a way that is, makes sense for them.
Yeah.
That's the one area I definitely think that, America and other Western countries we really get right, but Japan is very backward sometimes, you know?
Yeah, for sure. But I think it's changing. And you're definitely a part of that change. So thanks for driving that. And let's keep pushing people forward around us.
Absolutely, absolutely. I heard that you also have a podcast, is that right? Or you dabbled
That
a
was
little
really long back. The 19-year-old know-it-all me who was just talking with no experience.
bit?
But I definitely have come a long way. And looking for, more meaningful conversations.
Absolutely. And I absolutely would love to, see you, maybe pick up that podcast a little bit, back again. You had some really great ideas before we, actually did this podcast about doing it in person. I promise if I do it in person, you'll be the first invite.
Thank
I
you. I would
promise, I
love to
promise.
be there.
Absolutely. But no, yeah, I'd love to see it because I love being in person. I love like, I'm a very emotionally intelligent person and I love like as a teacher seeing people how they react to what we say and like the energy and vibe is a lot better in person.
Yeah,
Those are
for
just
sure.
things you learn by conversations, right?
Yeah, for
But
sure. 100%.
yeah, and those things I think a lot of people struggle with here is like interpersonal kind of like
Yeah.
relationship based. So
Oh my gosh. I can't
it's
get started on that.
really bad. It's actually really
Hashtag single life.
exactly, exactly. But yeah, hopefully that'll, definitely get better in the future. I actually want to do some rapid fire questions for you with regards
Sure.
to recruitment.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
exciting.
yeah. Okay. So first question is, what are your top sales tips for anyone looking to get into that career?
Develop empathy and assertiveness.
Develop empathy and assertiveness.
Assertiveness.
Oh,
Yeah.
I like it. Empathy and assertiveness.
I didn't say aggressiveness, assertiveness.
I like it. I like it. There is a difference. There's definitely a
Yeah.
difference.
Yeah.
Okay. Next, there's this concept called a black company in Japan. Have you ever worked with a black company before? Ever worked for one? And I guess how do we identify what a black company is?
So fortunately, I haven't worked for one. But if you want to identify if it's a black company or not, I would speak to people who have worked there previously,
Mm,
and understand, okay, what's their work-life balance has been like.
hmm.
And when you ask that question to like more people, and sometimes if there is some areas where they're trying to conceal and not giving you like a very, very direct answer, you already have your answer.
Okay. Okay. That's a good one. Yeah. Black company, just for anyone who doesn't know, is a
Yeah.
company that really treats their employees very badly, very poorly. And because especially foreigners can't like freely go around, they're kind of tied to their visa that sometimes they often get
Yeah.
stuck there. They
Yeah.
don't pay them or they, treat them badly. And then firing people.
Mhm.
So, like you had brought up earlier about companies not being able to fire people
Fire.
easily. And I think that's kind of what adds to this. That's what kind of created a
Yeah.
black company.
Yeah.
Another thing I want to ask you is about recruitment.
Okay.
Okay. What do you think it takes to be a really good recruiter?
wanting to build good relationships.
Good
Mm,
relationships.
yeah.
With who?
With any of your stakeholders. It's
Mm,
internal, it's external. If you think that, you're going to sit at a desk and get your job done without collaborating with other people in the team, it's not going to happen. You have to depend on other people, have other people depend on you. And that's only going to happen if you're going to have them trust you. Until there's trust, you can't sustain. You can have some wins.
hmm
You can have short-term wins, but you will not have word of mouth.
hmm
Won't You will just be like one of the hundreds of recruiters in Tokyo.
It's crazy. Yeah. So many of them here.
Yeah.
One thing, I actually had a conversation last week with a recruiter. Um, we just met at a network event, and I was like, dude, you're supposed to be information machine.
Yeah.
Because he was like struggling about his boss not getting him roles to fill. I'm like, dude, get roles yourself,
Yeah.
right? You're talking to candidates who are job hunting that are looking in the market
Yeah.
for a job. Find
Yeah.
a lead from them. Give it to your boss. Be like, hey, here's a
Yeah.
lead. If they
Yeah.
don't do anything with it, then that's their fault,
It's
right?
collaboration.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so like information machine. I remember being a recruiter. I was like, damn, this is a very dynamic job. You learn
Yeah.
so much about everything, especially
Yeah.
360 recruitment where you do
Oh
account
my gosh.
executives.
Yeah. It's just so simple. Like I remember just yesterday, a colleague of mine was sitting and they said, company, oh, so you've interviewed for company X. And just by sitting over there, I had information. Like, and just
Exactly.
after that call cut, hey, you gotta give me
Right?
that lead.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think a lot of recruiters actually realize that if you introduce a lead to your account executive, sometimes you can be on that deal,
Yeah.
right? If they open that deal, right? And
Mm.
that's a good thing. Also for companies, what do companies not realize sometimes?
Mhm.
Recruiters work for you for free until they place somebody.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
why are they so hesitant to speak to them and get information from, a lot of people,
Yeah.
right?
Mm.
So that's something that I wish that more people realize because recruiters are actually there to help you for
Thank
free,
you, Lee.
right? They're there to help you find a job. They're there
That
to
could
help you
go
get
on
a
the
good.
thumbnail.
I used to be one, so yeah, it's a
Yeah.
great thing, right? All right. Well, Chandni, we spoke a lot about, what you're doing and, to help product teams find the right people. We spoke about recruitment, AI. Is there anything that we didn't speak about that you think we should have spoke about?
I think we covered pretty much every bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good. Well, actually, I have one more question for you, and
Sure.
that's, you know, obviously recruitment's a good job, but
Yeah.
it's something that it's a very transient job.
Yeah.
A lot of
Yeah.
people go in and out for maybe learn some skills, build relationships, and then they move on to something else. Where
Hmm.
do you see yourself in, I guess, the next 5 years? Still recruitment, or are you going to start your own company? I feel like you could be, an entrepreneur for sure.
That's a great question. I did not prep for that before coming here. Um, I think for me, career is something which has always been like for some people career is like, oh, I'm passionate about this and this is a passion problem, I'm going to wake up and solve this problem in my life. For me it's always been like just a way to earn money, and so that's why it's like a part of my life and not my entire life. um and so when it comes to maybe next 10 years or maybe next 5 years, any place where I see teams that support each other, where I'm upskilling myself, whether it's, like recruitment or whether it's any consulting job, and I'm making lots of money, would be something that's like more sustainable for me. When it comes to sort of starting something of my own, I've really thought about it. But I haven't really discovered a problem that I'm really, keen on solving yet.
Mm,
And my dad's been a businessman his entire life,
mm.
and he says this thing which is a bit controversial. If you wanna test out something, if you wanna test out business, you need to test it on someone else's business, right? First. And that's why I like really working for my current company, because they give me a lot of autonomy to run my own little business within this bigger org. And
Mm.
at the same time, I have my own voice. I get to like collaborate with people, develop so many soft skills. So I feel like regardless of whichever company I work for and the kind of role I'm in, the capabilities of leadership, creating an impact, and just earning more money is gonna be the place where I want to be.
Chandni, it sounds like you're very money motivated, right?
I am. Like I Honestly, I am. And any person in sales who's here saying that, they're not motivated by money, dude,
They're lying. They're in the
you're in a
wrong
lot of hell.
career. They're in the
Because
wrong career. Exactly.
yeah, honestly, like the amount of abundance like it has brought to me, like I had my brother visiting here for the New Year's. Like we've sort of emptied a lot of money here
I
and
see.
from my pocket, and we've had so much fun. And I
Mm,
personally like spending on people that I love, my family, and I'm recently going back. I'll go back to India soon as well. And I just love taking trips and
yep.
spending on luxury, spending on myself.
It's good, you know? You know, honestly, I think that, as long as it doesn't, consume you,
For
it's good
sure.
it's good to have that where you like to have money to help other people, to make enrich other people as well as yourself and provide yourself with something, a future that you're going to be proud
Yeah.
of, a legacy, right? A lot of people don't even think about that anymore. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's something that I'm trying to get a little bit, towards that way now. I've always wanted to make an impact. That's what kind of
Yeah.
driven me, a lot. But if you make an impact, usually money is, follows as well. So try-
100%.
trying to
I
be more open to that too. Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
I think the biggest impact I've made, it wasn't like, sure, some money came with it, but it was really through a customer problem I solved.
Mm.
And even until like very recently, I had no clue of, okay, this is why sales is why I should be in sales.
Hmm.
And when like I remember the best compliment a customer has given me, that is that you're not just a good salesperson, but you understand my team. You understand, like how my team functions.
Hmm.
And that just gave me like so much more happiness.
Yep. And it's a
Yeah.
testament to your empathy and your listening skills and your just people skills. Like recruitment is one of the only careers where you can get like sales and people skills in the same role, right? It's just
For
like
sure.
amazing,
For
right? And you
sure.
learn so much about everything.
Yeah.
Well, Chandni, it's been a really great conversation that we've had today.
Likewise.
We have a closing tradition on the
Yeah.
podcast where the last person left a question for you, and
Okay.
you'll leave a question for the next guest. Are you ready for your question?
Yes.
All right. Though this one, a founder was the last question. So, the last guest. So he had a question for you. What's your favorite startup related TV show or movie? It could be about a founder. It could be about, startup related thing. Anything that you've seen.
Can it be a podcast?
Could be, sure.
Then it's the Diary of a CEO.
Okay. Why do you like it so much? Yes.
Because I feel, number one, Stephen Bartlett, he's a legend. Like I don't
Hmm.
know how he's built what he does. Um, but he's had people from like all spheres of life and this world. Like you take finance, politics, health,
Hmm.
people who build businesses, people who are authors, psychology experts, public speaking experts.
Spiritual people, right? As well.
It's immaculate. And honestly, personally, it has impacted me so much. I remember when I was in India and I had just graduated university, I used to watch his podcast. And
Mm.
I'm still watching his podcast like 4 years later. And he says one thing which is like very, which has personally helped me in life, is that you do, instead of thinking of a big leap that you want to make, you improve 1% of everything, every day. So what
Hmm.
he does is, in every podcast episode that he has, maybe the vocal element of someone's voice is improved, room temperature is improved, or
Mm.
maybe the mic he's using has changed,
Hmm.
and all of that leaves the person who comes there with so much gratitude
Hmm.
and warmth. And even though I'm watching it online, I can feel it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's one. And then I think during the times where I was in a phase when I did not have enough people around me to tell me that you have got this.
Mm.
I think this was the belief that I needed, with all of the conversations he's had, to push myself forward. So I
Excellent.
think I think his podcast would be my favorite.
That's incredible. And he's a big inspiration for why I do this as well. This is kind of like the tradition that we do. Like it's like obviously copied from him, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
like, like everyone he brings on, I just like I'm always watching, I'm
Yeah.
always learning, and it's kind of like free mentorship in a way because we're kind of,
So,
some of the people, for example, he's had on like Alex Hormozy and like,
mm,
some other business people. I'm like,
yeah,
wow, man, like this conversation is just so engaging.
yeah.
He's done the what's it called the debate style as well, which I
Yeah,
really
for the
enjoy.
women's health, right? Oh
Yes.
my gosh, that was so heart touching. Like,
So
loved
good.
it.
And
Yeah.
yeah, he like does the research like you were saying, 1% better. He takes those like photos. I don't know how he gets the family photos from people, you know what I
That's
mean?
crazy.
Right? But
Yeah.
he's able to pull out those emotions from his style of
Yeah.
interviewing.
Just a plug on there, because he mentions this often that it's a team effort that helps him do that. And
Mhm.
he said this thing very recently that that's because he spends 50% of his time hiring.
Yes,
50%.
that's crazy. Exactly.
So people, you got to think about your next hiring plan.
Exactly, and like I think what helped me do this podcast, and I'm sure you as well, is being a recruiter, right?
Hmm.
And like being able to interview different types of people all the time. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think hopefully I'll see your podcast come up pretty soon again. We'll see a new
Thank you.
podcast.
But I did start creating content though.
All right.
Yeah, I started creating my first video went off yesterday. If someone's watching, please give me feedback.
Absolutely. Hey, if anything, send me the link and I'll add it in the description so people can check it out as well.
Oh, thank you. I
Ab-
will. Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, now, Chadney, it's your turn to ask a question for the next guest.
Okay. So my question is, what is the best relationship you've invested in the past 1 year?
Okay. Hmm. Very, very nice. That's a
Yeah.
good question. Yeah, relationships, in terms of investing them, it's not
Yeah.
money, it's time, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
tension, it's all that. Like,
People get it wrong.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Well, Chani, this was a really inspiring conversation. I learned a lot about you.
Likewise.
Learned a lot about you. I'm really looking forward to, staying in touch and then hopefully seeing you again and hopefully inviting you on the podcast again because this episode was packed with insights for anyone interested in recruitment, sales, like product, hiring, also, people looking for a job. I really appreciate your time today and thank you so much. Yeah.
Likewise. Thank you for having me. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's a wrap for this episode of the Product Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a like and subscribe on YouTube, follow us on Spotify, or leave a review on Apple Podcasts. It really helps this channel grow. And if you are a product manager or a startup founder who wants to share your story or some of the struggles that you've gone through in your career, then definitely reach out to us. We'd love to have you on. And until next time, happy building, everyone.